Hello, Miss Bell's Algebra 2 class. I'm looking at practice with complex numbers. It says to only do the circled problems. I'm going to take you through half of them, at least get those done. Try your hand at the others, and there's some online calculators that could help you out too. You could just, for these first ones, you could look up, what is it I use to check myself? A square root imaginary number calculator, okay? And you could just, check yourself. And some things on there might be a little bit confusing, but you could, if you read through it, you could figure it out. And then these complex expression calculator, that'll help you out on those. You have to kind of search for your answers on that one. And then on the back page, or the second page, quadratic formula calculator. It just has you put in your A, your B, and your C values, and then it'll work things out for you, and you can figure out things from there if you're having problems. Okay, just to let you know that those sources are out, those resources are out there for you. I want to take you through the odd ones right now, though. So let's take a look at number 1. We have the square root of negative 49. I can break that up into square root of 49 times negative 1. Square root of 49 is 7. I still have the square root of negative 1 underneath the square root bracket. Square root of negative 1 is I, so I end up with 7i. 7i is my answer. Number 3, and you can pause this as I'm kind of just ripping right through this, because I have some other things I got to get to. We have, for number 3, square root of negative 7. I could bust that up into 7 times negative 1 under the square root bracket. The square root of negative 1 is I, and I still have the square root of 7, not a perfect square, so it just stays I square root of 7. Or you could write it square root of 7 and then the I, but not underneath the square root bracket. For number 5, we have square root of negative 8. I could bust that up into 4 and negative 2. Square root of 4 is 2, so I bring that out. Now I still have negative 2 underneath the square root bracket, so I could bust that up into 2 times negative 1. Square root of negative 1 is I, so I bring out an I from the square root bracket, and then I still have underneath the square root bracket 2. So 2I square root of 2 is going to be my answer for number 5. Going on to number 11. This problem, we are adding these two quantities. So take a look. Negative 6 plus a 6 is going to be 0. Negative 7 minus a 7 is going to be 0. So I'm just left with 0 for 11. Number 13. I'm subtracting this quantity. So this subtraction I'm going to distribute into the parentheses. So a negative and negative make a positive. A negative and a positive make a negative. So that's why this one changes to a plus 8 and a minus 2i. So I just combine my like terms here. Negative 5 and 8 is going to be a positive 3. 3i minus 2i is just going to be I, so I just have 3 plus I. Simplified. Number 15, I am multiplying these two, so I'm going to use the FOIL method. I'm going to multiply the first. I'm going to multiply the outsides. I'm going to multiply the insides. I'm going to multiply the last in each quantity. So the first 2 times negative 3 is negative 6. The outside 2 times 6i is 12i. The inside negative I times 3 is going to be a positive 3i. And then I have a negative 6i squared, the last times the last one in each. Now, I just rearrange it. I like my I squared out front. I combine these two to make 15i, and I still have this minus 6 or negative 6 now. Remember, I squared is negative 1, so this actually is saying negative 6 times negative 1, which is going to be a positive 6, and I have a minus 6 back here. The positive 6 minus 6 cancel each other out. I'm just left with a positive 15i. So just 15i is going to be my final answer. Don't mind that. I was going a weird direction there, and I had to cross that out. I jumped down to number 24 for you. I'm going to distribute this 3i into the 2 and into the 2i. I'm going to multiply that. So 3i times 2 is 6i. 3i times 2i is 6i squared. Well, I like my I squared, I like it out front, so I just moved it in this step. And then I squared is negative 1. So I didn't like the direction I was going there, so I started to write something and I just don't pay attention to that. 6 times -1 is -6, and I still have this 6i, so it's just -6 plus 6i. And now for the quadratic equation problems, looking at number 39. This is my A, this is my B, this is my C. Remember, ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0 is standard form when we're talking about quadratic equations. And then I plug that information, my A, my B, my C, my A, my B, my C, for number 39, into the quadratic formula. My A's, my B's, my C. And I plug that in. That is 2 squared minus 4 there. Sorry, it looks so ugly. I had to squeeze it out. I almost forgot the 2 squared. And you end up getting -2 plus or minus square root of -36 over 2, right? -2. And so this, the square root of -36 ends up being 6i, because square root of 36 is 6, and then you have -1 underneath there is i. And so that breaks down to, 2 divided by 2 and 6 divided by 2 ends up being 1 plus a -3i, or 1 minus a -3i. Or you could just write it like this: that plus and the minus make a negative, this negative and negative make a positive. It's 1 minus 3i or 1 plus 3i. And then 41, this is my A, this is my B, this is my C. So I have -4, I have 6, I have -3. And that problem worked out. I just take my A, B's, and C's, I put it into the quadratic formula, and I then get -6 plus or minus square root of -12 over -8. Square root of -12 ends up being, 4 times -3. I could bring out the 2, and I can bring out an I to get rid of that negative. The square root of 4 is the 2. The negative is the I, so I'm left with square root of 3. So take a look at this. I could divide all these terms by 2. So I do that. 2 divided by 2 is, I forgot to get rid of the 2 there, so I crossed it off. -6 divided by, and I did it by -2, by the way. So that's 3, and -8 divided by -2 is 4. So I could have it plus the I square root of 3, or you could have square root of 3i. Just make sure the I is not underneath that bracket. That would make sense. Or you could have it 3 minus I square root of 3. Or you could just write it like this. I broke it up, 3/4 plus I square root of 3 over 4, or 3/4 minus I square root of 3 over 4. All right. Hopefully this helps, and good luck with the other ones. And like I said, take a look for online calculators if you want to check yourself.